position. It's headfirst only television.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. It's the 7th of January. Hello to one and all. Welcome to Headfirst Only Television. God, watching those credits. Good evening to De French Dogie. Good evening to Basics Giselle. Watching those opening credits, the room hasn't looked like this now for 2 months. I actually have a proper sort of kind of almost studio. I've got stuff on the walls and there's all sorts of lots of nice goodness in here. It's January. That means it's nearly February, and February means February album writing month, which is something that I will be talking about a lot this month, and my shows on Sunday night, which are called Is It Form Yet? Because Is It February album writing month isn't for 25 days, but that's not long, and you need to sort your stuff out. If you've taken part in February album writing month before, you'll know it's a songwriting challenge in which you have to write 14 songs in the 28 days of February. If you took part last year, then if you want to keep hold of all the nice things that people said about your stuff, you need to archive the site, because the site will be reset over the weekend. So it will disappear. You won't be able to sign up over the weekend because the site will be completely unresponsive. But what it means is that if I go to screen share, so here's my form profile. If you've got a form profile, go to the little picture there. There's a little drop down menu that you can go to. Click on archive. That will display a page with all your song lyrics and all the comments that people made and all the comments that people made on your soundboard. And if you get kind of carried away, like I do, that's an awful lot of stuff. But that's displayed in your browser as a web page. All you do, just do save page as, and it will eventually, when it's thinking about it, there we go, pop up a dialog box, lets you save your web page, and it will save all your comments. I've already done mine because I'm a nerd. So girly swat. Atitlan says, I pulled the trigger on the Arturia collection update. Good man. Emu 2 will feature. Yeah, if you don't know what the Arturia V collection is that Atitlan has just treated himself to, it is a collection of emulations of hardware synths, like a couple of these chappies behind me, only more expensive, such as the Fairlight CMI, such as the New England Digital Synclavier, such as the Yamaha CS80 that was so beloved of Vangelis that at one point his studio in London had 8 of the damn things in it. So, yeah. February album writing month. If you're not part of it, please join us. Please sign up. It's great fun. If you do music, Form and its bigger brother 5090, which takes place between July and October, is a fantastic way of upping your chops, of getting people to listen to your music, of finally committing to stuff and releasing it into the world rather than just putting it off and saying, well, it's not ready yet. Because I know what that's like. In the 10 years before I started doing Form, I finished 3 pieces of music. This will be my 13th year of taking part in February album writing month. And while I've been doing February album writing month, my songwriting output rate has rather improved from 3. So in the last 13 years, I've now written about 760 pieces of music, some of which are like 7-8 minutes long. And I'll be playing a few newly written and newly recorded pieces of music in tonight's show. But the thing about doing these shows is that I want to encourage you, if you're a musician, to take part and really have fun doing it. Good evening, Ryako Music. Take part in form. Have fun doing it. It will really, really change the way you look at music, the way you approach music, the way that you write songs. It certainly did for me. And I don't think I'd be sitting in a room that is this completely given over to doing music if it wasn't for signing off on taking part in form. Ryako Music says, Array of Emotions is the physiotherapist. I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope he gets relief from some of the problems he's got at the moment. And also, I'd like to just say a big shout out to our friend Belinda, who is really having a rough time of it in hospital at the moment. And Belinda, mate, if you're watching, I really feel for you. I really hope that you get better soon, and we're thinking about you a lot. So, February album writing month. Take part in it. Do your stuff. Even if you write 2 songs, that's 2 songs more than you would have written if you'd just been stuck at home in lockdown, just sitting on your ass, not doing anything. It's a great motivator. And what I really like about it is that everybody's got ideas for 2 or 3 songs, right? Everybody has that song that they kind of want to get down and do. So when you sign up for form, those are the songs that you do in the first 2 or 3 days. That's great. It gets you off the starting blocks and you've got a couple of songs under your belt. And if you start commenting on other people's songs, they start commenting on yours, because it's a community and that's how you grow and become a part of the community. And then you run out of ideas. And that's when form gets really interesting. You'll see on the website that it says, what are you waiting for? Inspiration? And there was a famous Jack London quote that has been used on February album writing month for many years, which is, do not loaf and invite inspiration. Rather, light out after it with a club. In other words, fake it till you make it. Don't bother waiting for some nefarious muse to clobber you with a really, really great song idea. Just do something. Put something down on your DAW. And if you haven't got a DAW, I will come to that in a minute, because there are ways in which you can get a DAW, a digital audio workstation. In other words, a piece of software that turns your laptop or your desktop or whatever computer you've got into a recording studio. And boy, you are going to have fun with that. But February album writing month, second half, is where people start running out of ideas and they get desperate. So they eventually figure out that what you've got to do is just make stuff up and try something. And that idea for a 28-minute rock opera about the local pub suddenly becomes an attractive topic for writing a piece of music about. And people do. One of our friends, Yano Arias, recorded a 24-minute prog rock epic in the first weekend of February album writing month a couple of years ago, and I'm just still astounded how he did it. But it sounded really good. I've still got an MP3 of it somewhere. So Ryako Music says, form made me a better musician. Me too. My goodness me, it gave my songwriting chops a kick up the pants. Belinda, hello. We were just talking about you and wishing you well. Sorry to hear you're not very well. We are really thinking of you a lot, and yeah, that sucks. So get well soon. Atitland66 says, layer stuff until it sounds vaguely musical. I'm feeling judged now. That's kind of my modus operandi, as you will see in the 3 pieces of music that I've written since Sunday's show. Yes, I've written 3 pieces of music since Sunday's show. Actually, it's kind of 4, but I'm not playing you one because it's a bit rubbish. And this is despite me saying, yeah, I'm just going to chill out and not do a lot and maybe just read books. And yeah, and Atitland66 says, and then put a beat behind it. And especially you drop Break Tweaker on it. And instant dubstep. Now is the year for us all to make that dubstep instrumental album that we didn't know the world needed. But we will. So, yeah, I will definitely be breaking out Break Tweaker for at least 1 track this February. So, yeah, as I've said, there's me bio, which if your screen resolution's up to you, you've probably read. I even updated my own music page today because that hadn't been updated since last summer. And this room, as you saw in the opening credits, which were filmed last summer, does not look anything like it looks now. So yeah, if you go over to headfirst.www.idnet.com/about_music. I'll put the link up in YouTube when I do the edited version of this, because that's kind of what I always do. There's everything you could possibly want to know about what goes on in this room. And I have to say, updated my album release list. So all my albums, there are links to them all on my Bandcamp page. And then, see, this is what my studio used to look like in here. It was a little cramped, and there was a bunk bed. I mean, let's open that tab so you can see it. There you go. So there's the bunk bed. It was kind of a tip, and I got some good use out of it over the years, but it really did start cramping my style. So I took a new photograph of the room yesterday to show it off. So here is the current studio where I'm sitting right now, although it's dark outside and the temperature is dropping. Array of Emotions, good evening. How was physio? I hope you haven't been mangled too much and are feeling a little better. Yeah, goodness me. Everybody's ill. Everybody's sick. It just sucks. So you have my sympathies, and I'm in a similar position myself. No mangling, says Array of Emotions. That's good. I think that's good. Is that good? That's good. Muscle building exercises today. Ah, okay. Right. Yeah, that is good. So I hope you stick at them. Right. Enough of form. Enough of February album writing month. Enough of, remember, you've got to back your profile up before Saturday because there's a site reset on Saturday. And just to reiterate, there are 25 days until February album writing month starts again. Okay, the French Doggy says, free door time. You read my mind. Let's go over to in fact, I just closed my web browser, so bear with me a second while I just open my web browser again and point you in the direction of a piece of software that has been around for donkey's years, called Cakewalk. Cakewalk is currently owned by BandLab, right? And the cool thing is that it's a fully featured DAW, and it's completely free. So you get a fully functioning DAW with the capability to use other people's VSTs, which are plugins, and it works in 64-bit, which is important these days. And all you do is you download the BandLab app, and then if I open it, here it is, it's called BandLab Assistant. And then you just go to apps and click on Cakewalk, and it'll install it for you on your PC or I think it works on Mac as well. Let me just, right, it's Windows only. So there are other DAWs that are available for you if you are a Mac user. I will come on to those at another time, but at the moment I just want to focus on Cakewalk. So I am not with it this evening. Close tabs. Yes, thank you. So when you've installed Cakewalk and you open it up, this is what you get. Let's get me out of the way. It's going to scan for VSTs, but that's okay because we can carry on while it's doing that. So you get different templates, which are different setups for recording stuff. But what you end up with in this view, which is the default view when you open it, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You get 16 tracks from top to bottom, and for each track you get a bunch of instruments that you can drop in if you want to do your MIDI thing, or you can record your guitar through an audio interface or your line in port on your laptop or your sound card, whatever you want to do. It is possible to do a complete multi-track recording using Cakewalk, and it is well worth it. And our resident expert, who is not with us at the moment, but I'm sure she'll drop in later, is Wobby Wobbit. And Wobby does all her stuff on Cakewalk, and if you listen to Wobby stuff, you'll understand just how deep down the rabbit hole you can go, and it's good stuff. But I use a different DAW, and I've been using a different DAW this week. So what I'm going to do, because I've been waffling now for the best part of 25 minutes, is I'm going to play you one of the tracks off this month's Learning Project album. So what it is, every month, with buying a new keyboard controller, which is, if I go to it, this thing. So it's a Complete Control S88 Mark II. It's rather lovely, but it does have an awful lot of software that I had to download. In fact, how much software did I have to download? 180 gigabytes of software it came with in the end, after I said, I'll have that as well. And that's a lot of stuff to learn, and talked a lot on this show about the paradox of choice, of having paralysis in wanting to decide between hundreds and hundreds of different things. So the way I've been doing it is I've been saying, okay, I'm just going to stick with a few instruments every month and do an album with them and focus on those instruments, to the exclusion of all the dozens and dozens and dozens of other new stuff that I've got, and just make an album with those sounds and learn how those sounds work, learn how they work well, learn how they struggle with other things. So it's really been an interesting way of teaching my ears about how to make different instruments fit in a mix. So when Atitlan said earlier about, you just layer stuff, he was not wrong, because layering stuff is something that I really, really have started getting into over the last 6 months. This album is going to be all about the pianos. So if I open Complete Control, which is the wrapper around most of Native Instruments software that is used to drive instruments from my keyboard controller. Noir, you might like this instrument. It's called Noir because it's a dark and mysterious piano, and it is rather gorgeous. It's a bit quiet, so I have to wind it up a bit. And I've also used a Waves plugin, which is called this one here, Audio Track Vitamins. It's rather nice. What it does is basically it just tweaks things in a really, really nice way. And the piano, nice, drenched in reverb, and of course it's Valhalla Supermassive, and yeah. So this is what I did with the first piano that I decided to tackle in my learning project for this month. It's all about a thought experiment called Boltzmann Brains, which was basically the idea that if you've got a really, really, really long period of time, fluctuations in the quantum foam might make a piano suddenly pop into existence. Very much like the whale in Douglas Adams's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when they turn on the infinite improbability drive. It's kind of the same deal. And so the album's going to be called Spontaneous Grand Pianos, and this is the first piano I used. It's called Noir, and this is the track, and it's going to be the first track on the album, and it's called Ripples in the Quantum Sea. So that was Ripples in the Quantum Sea by me. And that will be the first track on my January learning project album, which is teaching myself how to play various pianos or get good results from various piano patches that are part of Contact, because they're all Contact instruments and they're all wrapped in the plugin that you can see here, which is Complete Control, although I did use the BBC Symphony Orchestra from Spitfire Audio. And if you haven't, I say this every show, but if you haven't gone over to the Spitfire Audio site, filled in the questionnaire and got yourself a free Symphony Orchestra plugin to play with, then go do it as soon as the show's finished, because it is amazing. There is also a bunch of Massive on there. I found a very nice sort of Tangerine Dreamy type patch, which was it? No, that was the French horns. That was another Contact instrument. So it must be, was it Vital? Let me just solo it and we'll see. Vital, you remember the synth I was talking about at the weekend? I really bloody like it. No, it wasn't Vital, so it was... There we go. It's part of the V collection. It's the Solina string machine, which, I mean, it's just instant Edgar Froese, isn't it, really? Listen to it. Oh, it's just gorgeous. So, yeah, I have a feeling that this album might start referencing Tangerine Dream kind of a lot. Selena, instant Jean-Michel Jarre, says Atitlan. Yeah, he's, in fact, I don't know if you've played much with the presets on the Selena in the V collection, but there are quite a few that are just Oxygen Part 5, Oxygen Part 6. So somebody has very painstakingly recreated exactly the settings that Jean-Michel Jarre used on his Selena string machine to... Atitlan says, I have. Good man. Yeah, I had a feeling you would have done. So, yeah, that track's... Yeah, I'm not entirely happy with some of the melodic choices for the guitars that I did this afternoon. I'll go back and I'll redo the guitars, because redoing the guitars is kind of what I do here at HFO Studio. So, yeah, that's getting towards being done, but not entirely there yet. So if I just save that, even though I've just sort of been tweaking around with it, let's open the next one that I've done. So again, I was saying about ripples in the quantum foam, quantum instabilities and virtual particles, pairs of particles that pop into existence and out of existence all the time in the universe, only we don't notice because they don't stay in existence for very long. And that sort of idea was reduced to absurdity as a way of looking at some of the more out there cosmological theories, and the out there reductio ad absurdum that a certain scientist called Mr. Boltzmann came up with was that, well, you know, human brain might just pop into existence and think, oh, I'm living in the West Country and experiencing life in the 21st century, even though they're not. Now, it's a reductio ad absurdum because, I mean, quite frankly, if you are a human brain that pops into existence in the deep vacuum of space at some time in the dim and distant future, you are not going to be a functioning human brain for very long. That part of the thought experiment tends to get a bit glossed over, in my opinion. But I really like the idea of Boltzmann Brains. They have got a lot of physicists losing sleep about whether cosmology is actually right or not, and making physicists lose sleep is always a sign that something interesting is going on. So track 2 on the album, which I've managed to stall long enough for Ableton to have actually pulled it off my hard disk, is called Boltzmann Brains. And this time round, different piano, because it's all about the pianos. This piano, I auditioned quite a few different pianos from the Contact library. And when we finished with this track, I'll talk to you about another Contact instrument piano that is totally free, but requires, unfortunately, the paid version of Contact to use. But it is rather splendid. But we'll come on to that in a minute. Anyway, una corda is apparently a thing. And una corda means one string, so it's a single string piano rather than your normal piano has a whole bunch of different gauge strings for each note. 3, I think, 3 or 4. Una corda sounds a bit weird, and that's even before the people at Native Instruments have dropped loads of processing on it, or in this case, because it says una corda felt, they've actually dropped a sheet of felt in between the hammers that hit the strings, and the strings dampens the sound. So what you end up with, this one also, they've ramped up the harmonic echoes, which is why it's called felt harmonic echoes, is rather splendid. So, yeah, there's a bit of echo on there as well. Now, remember that on Sunday show, I was saying, well, I downloaded this Spectral phase tilt shift filter thing and couldn't really find a use for it. I found a use for it, because to get those high frequency clattery noises tamed a bit, because without them it's a bit over the top, I've dropped stilt on this. So TB Pro Audio is the website. Go over. It lets you shift the harmonic center, or the loudest part of the frequency spectrum, to the lower end or to the higher end, and it does interesting things to the una corda piano. So if I play it and then dick around with the settings, you can see what I mean. Let's solo it so you're not distracted by the other synths. See how all the high-end stuff's disappeared? Well, you can make it all high-end. So it was all this crunchy stuff that was kind of bugging me, that I wanted to get rid of, because that's a little bit much in my view. But I reckon that's about right. So, yeah, that's una corda, which is one of the Contact instruments that comes with Complete 13. And then basically this one, there's no guitars or anything yet. I've literally just been layering and layering and layering and having great fun layering. So let's play you this one. This one's called Boltzmann Brains. So that one's called Boltzmann Brains. So that's the second track on this month's learning project album, which will be all about various pianos, although in the end the Mellotron Tangerine Dream patch kind of took over, and with the dotted eighths on that little, I think it was, trying to think what instrument it was that I was using for it. Let's find out what it was. Which was, so it's using, it's the Selena string machine again. I've suddenly discovered I love the Selena string machine. What this one is doing is a bit different from the last track. So if I just solo it, it's doing this. But it's the echoes that are really doing it. So as soon as I got that with the piano and then the Mellotron, it was like, okay, Tangerine Dream. And Atitlan says, really like this one. It has a feel of those late 70s synth instrumental pioneers. Man, that was my teenage years. The late 70s, listening to Vangelis, listening to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, listening to Jean-Michel Jarre, listening to Tangerine Dream, listening to Asao Tomita. You know, Alan Freeman used to play all those artists on his show on Saturday afternoons on Radio 1, and I'd just sit there with a cassette recorder going, oh, I like these guys, record, and then just listen to them on cassette obsessively, to the point where I actually wore the heads out on more than one cassette recorder as a result of just wanting to hear that stuff over and over and over again. And it feels like this stuff, this is the month where it's all going to come back out again. So 2 tracks in, I think I've somehow already established a vibe. And I'll play you the third track in a bit, which continues that vibe still further. Third track, I've basically started it this afternoon, so it is in no way complete. But what I want to do for the moment is I'm going to create a new live set. I don't want to change that, because you remember I was talking about pianos. So if you have the full Contact player, and unfortunately I don't think it works with the not full version of Contact player, but I've got the hiccups now. Excuse me. Let's drop Contact into a track and I'll load up a piano that I came across today, in fact. Ivy Audio have sampled a Steinway Model B, I think it is. And oh my God, it's a 6 gigabyte download. And as you can see, my computer, which is a fairly decent computer, because it's got quite a lot of data to try and wrangle. So while we're doing this, just catch up on the chat. Aravemasha says, I'm not going to lie, I didn't recognise any of those band names. Oh my goodness me, man. Jean-Michel Jarre? Really? You know, the Rendezvous Houston and Zuluk and Oxygene and Equinox and all those. I mean, good God, if I played you a piece of Jean-Michel Jarre, you'd go, oh, him. His father was Maurice Jarre. And you're thinking, who's Maurice Jarre? Okay, let's just say soundtrack to Lawrence of Arabia. Ring a bell? That's Maurice Jarre. So Jean-Michel Jarre came from a very, very, very musical family. JMJ is the dude with the laser harp, you know, with the strings of laser beams that he just sticks his hand through and play. Check out Jean-Michel Jarre on YouTube and prepare to be amazed. Atitlan 66's Oxygen Part 4. Literally everyone has heard it. Atitlan speaks the truth here. But those other tracks, like Atitlan says, oh my God, I've forgotten Isaiah Tomita. I loved Tomita. Snowflakes Are Dancing. I've still got the vinyl of that. What an extraordinary, I think, and Wendy Carlos, Wendy Carlos and Isaiah Tomita, kind of two sides of the same coin. Absolutely obsessed with classical music from a electronic synthesis point of view, and they did things to classical standards that were outrageously fun and innovative. And Wendy Carlos did it literally on a monophonic synthesizer. So for each track, with all the chords, she was playing one note at a time on individual tracks in the recording studio just to get the chords done. Goodness knows how she did it. Absolutely astonishing artist. Tomita's Snowflakes Are Dancing is basically a lot of Debussy's standards heavily mooged, and it's gorgeous. The Gollywog's Quake Walk, the Abandoned Cathedral, Sunken Cathedral, they're all just beautiful. Claire de Lune is a thing of beauty. I love that. I will probably have to go and listen to that album tomorrow because I love it. Tangerine Dream, a bunch of German synth wizards, some of whom are still with us, some of whom sadly passed away, but a friend of mine went and saw them at the Fairfield Halls in Croydon in 1978, and the Tangs had just discovered sequencers. And apparently, because I didn't go, because for some reason, my mate Graham said, yeah, they all came on stage, switched all the machines on, pushed the buttons to start the synthesizers going, hit play, and then all buggered off to the pub. So Atitlan says, Silver Apples did it on a ton of oscillators. Unbelievable stuff. I am not aware of this, so I will make a note and check this out. Anyway, enough of the waffling. Piano 62 has appeared. So, this is what you get. Bit quiet, so let's turn up the master volume a bit, because Contact is always a bit on the quiet side. Okay, standard piano, yeah, okay, but you can do a lot with it because you can whack up the ambient soundstage recording level. So it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous piano. So if you've got Contact, check out Ivy Audio on the web and download their piano in 162. The Revelation says, no, it sounds like hotel lobby jazz. You're not wrong. There are a number of other things you can do as well, but I haven't really played with it much yet. But for a start, drop a bit of reverb on it, because I'm all about the reverb. And suddenly, So, yeah, I just love it. Really, really beautifully balanced, really nice frequency response in terms of on the S88 that I'm using to play on this, because it's a weighted piano action keyboard, so it feels like I am playing that, and I really, really dig that particular piano. So that will probably end up making an appearance on at least one track on this album, because I'm all about the pianos, and I don't have to limit myself to the 5 that are in the Native Instruments Complete 13 download. So that's 2 tracks that I've played you that I've done since Sunday. The third one I kind of started on this afternoon. I'm not really sure where this is going, but again, we're back on the theme of Boltzmann Brains, and Boltzmann Brains is a thought experiment, and thought experiment in German is a Gedanken experiment, and so this track is called Gedanken Experiment, and this track has another Native Instruments piano on it. This one, if I solo it, is called The Grandeur, because it's a concert grand. Once again, I couldn't resist drowning it in far too much reverb, because that's who I am. And this is what this one sounds like. So this is an early draft of Gedanken Experiment. And let's see how long it takes this one to turn into a Tangerine Dream track. there you go. 3 tracks for you this evening, and that's the third one. That's called Gedanken Experiment. The French Doggy says, the beginning sounds like someone realises he is a failure and then he tries to get back up and move on despite his past failures. That's what I can picture in my head. I like it. Atitlan66 says, soundtrack feel dark, Scandi drama. The piano sounds great. Nice to hear the orchestra making a return. Thank you. I think I will probably add strings. I've been downloading stuff this week, and Contact, I know Contact is a paid product and you've got to spend money if you want to download a whole bunch of instruments or use a lot of the instruments that are in Complete 13, for example. But Guy Mitchellmore did a program about Contact on his YouTube channel about 6 months ago, and he said, look on the cost of buying the full version of Contact as an entry into an ecosystem of dozens upon dozens upon dozens of sample libraries. There are some very expensive ones like Albion from Spitfire Audio and the Hans Zimmer strings and all the rest that are hundreds and hundreds of pounds. But equally, there are a lot of very, very cheap libraries for Contact, and there are, to my astonishment, a large number of totally free libraries for Contact. And that Piano 162, if that's the right number, because I've already forgotten it, that was free. I have been looking at the Cinematique Instruments website over the last few days, and in fact Artificial Eye over at Form posted on the forums this afternoon saying, have any of you lot actually checked out the Cinematique instruments and their Klang, which is German for noise, instrument packages, because they're really good? To which I would say, oh yes. And let me just drop another version of, well, we'll use Complete Control this time. So we'll drop Complete Control in, and see, if you're developing a Contact instrument, you pay a premium to basically get your instrument to pop up with a nice pretty picture in Contact or in Complete Control. So for something like Abbey Road 1, there it is. I can just click on that icon and it pops up, because Spitfire have paid the premium so that their instruments are able to do that. And that also means that in some cases an instrument will work with Contact Player, which is the free version of Contact, as well as the full paid version of Contact. But a lot of other Contact instruments, you download, you put them in your own user content library, and I have one already prepared for you here. Here are mine. I've got lots, and I have been downloading quite a lot of Klang's instruments because they're rather nice. So this one's, you've seen it there, it's called Drown. Some bit of piano in there, bit of granular synthesis. Can put some fuzz on it. Rather nice, isn't it? So what else have we got? There are a lot of other ones. Easy Life vintage synthesizer. And all of these instruments are free. If you go to the Klang website, you can download them all. Indigo Waves was one I was rather taken with this. This will probably end up being used somewhere. So think Guitar in Cathedral. Bit more fuzz. Bit more top end. And again, the contact player tends to be a bit quiet, so we can whack it up. So the mod wheel does tone. Rather nice. Wills Robin says, one instrument in the Coldfish movie credits theme sounds a bit like the thing that you couldn't remember what it sounds like. Don't mind why it sounds familiar. It really sounds like something. Maybe I've just tapped into to an archetype of some form. But I hope it doesn't sound exactly like something else, because otherwise that would be bad. Spieluhr. So this is a musical box, Spieluhr, recorded with an Uhr tape recorder, which is rather pretty. And surprisingly, I might actually turn that back down to more normal levels. So that's the Klang stuff. Oh, I do like this one. This is by a different guy entirely. The Cryptar. You want to get hold of this one if you can, because this is rather nice. So rather spooky. It's a sort of clavinet combined with a guitar, and you get a whole bunch of different instruments in a single download. Medieval Crypt, or even Medieval Crypt. Wills Robin says, oh yes, give me all the spooky. I love dark stuff. You are gonna love this one. So I've been very taken with this, but it kind of doesn't fit the vibe of the album, so maybe this will be coming out of the woodwork a lot in February. There are so many really, really lovely free musical instruments that you can use once you've got contact. Naja says, didn't last long, too much pain. I'm so sick of this. Oh, really sorry to hear that, Belinda. I've just noticed that you get little animated candles with little candle flames on the graphical user interface for that. How sweet is that? So yes, there are. Let me go to the Cinematic Instruments website, which will no doubt pop up in search. There we go. So they've launched Clang as a separate website. So go to they put something out that's on Clang that's new every month. But if we go back, whoops, there we go. So there are lots and lots of rather nice ones. So hammered violin. That sounds rather good, doesn't it? I think I might have to download that. So yeah, I'm going to get sidetracked if I do it now. So go to Cinematic Instruments and knock yourself out, and then go to the new Clang website. There you go. That's the free download of the month. Indigo Waves. What does Indigo Waves sound like? Well, let's go back to it. So yeah, there's a lot for that, especially at the low end. So we're back into dark and spooky territory here, aren't we? Kind of almost a tuba. Oh, and there is one other one that I want to play you because it is really cool. And it is the sampled sound of a dodgy fluorescent light tube. So I don't know if you can hear how much of a low end there is on this, but my monitors are going, oh! That's got loads of potential. That will definitely be making an appearance in my album this month. You can count on it. There was one other one that I thought I was really gonna be able to knock your socks off with tonight, which is a sample library that's run by these folks. Right, I said, because I've been following, free VSTs and everything, and Short Noise have made a library that was originally $199 free as a download, and when you click download you get 5 separate RAR files, each of which is about 3/4 of a gigabyte. So it's about 6 gigs of stuff, and it's like, oh, that looks really good, and you get loads of bloopy goodness. The only trouble is doesn't work with Contact 6, and you can't now go to Native Instruments and go, can I buy a Contact 5 player as well as a Contact 6 player, because I've got all these old libraries that I'd really like to keep using, and they don't work with Contact 6 because you've revamped the sample engine too much that it breaks. And if I try loading all these old, really nice sample libraries into Contact 6 player, it just goes, problem with plugin. And that's as far as it gets. And that kind of bugs me to a certain extent. It's obviously a decision that Native Instruments have taken to say, nope, we are not going to support previous versions of the player and the gigantic infrastructure of free and cheap and expensive musical instruments that are already out there, because we want people to move to our new software and spend money with us again, and everybody else can just go and do one. It just seems nuts to me. So I download, Rieko Music says, I use Contact 5. Well, you are lucky, because you can therefore go to Short Noise and download all those 6 gigabytes of RAR files and install. You get lovely, 300 instruments, whole bunch of multis, and there are like 80s analog synths and chip tunes and goodness knows what else. And it's all totally free, but because Muggins here didn't dive into the Native Instruments ecosystem until Contact 6 came out, then I'm stuffed. It's pointless. And unfortunately, I only discovered this after spending the afternoon downloading all 6 gigabytes onto my hard drive, and then Contact just went, no. So I was a little bit peeved, to say the least, about that. But there are also issues, for example, with some of the piano book instruments. Now, the lovely people at pianobook.co.uk, and I do actually have Piano Book set up as a favourite on my computer, because why not? If you're not familiar with Piano Book, they're a bunch of guys and girls who sample pianos and then upload them to the Piano Book website as Contact instruments, although they do also make quite a few of them available for Decent Sampler or Plogue Sforzando, both of which I have discussed many times on this website, which are free sample players that you can avail yourself of and use instead of Contact Player. But you see this one here, Pandemic Pad, guy in Melbourne, found a bunch of bats in his local park, and being a member of the Piano Book community, went, gets out his field recorder, records them. And if we go back to complete, and I go back to my user library, and we go to a pad called Pandemic Pad, I love the fact that this has a bats control that you can turn on and off. And what's it sound like? It sounds great. Shall we turn the bats on? I think the reverb might be a bit. Let's just dial back the reverb a bit, and we'll turn the volume down a bit as well, because that is a little bit in your face, isn't it? I'm not hearing the bats as much as I thought I was going to. There they are. It's Aftertouch. Wills Robin says, all the bats. It's a pity you can't. Bats are a binary choice. You either have bats or you do not have bats. Rather than maybe there are controls. Are there controls? Plug-in, contact. No, there aren't any controls enabled within Complete Control because all the different controls in the 16 pages of the controls all just say not available, which is a bit of a pain. But, yeah. But who cares? Because bats. And, I mean, come on. That's just crying out for a shitload of Valhalla Supermassive, isn't it? So let's whack up the send. And what do we get? Robin says, he isn't actually a bat, as far as I know. I have been reading today about the 1835 Great Moon Bat hoax that was perpetrated by the editor of the New York Sun newspaper in 1835 to boost circulation. And yeah, back apparently in those days, newspapers made shit up just as much as they do today. And the editor decided that he could make it all very plausible that an astronomer was watching all these bat people and they called them man bats. That apparently an astronomer was watching all these man bats hanging out on the moon with, I kid you not, purple unicorns. And to make it convincing, he decided to say that the astronomer in charge of doing all this, who had built a completely fictitious 7-ton giant reflecting telescope in Cape Town in South Africa, was Sir John Herschel, who was, if I remember correctly, the son of William Herschel, who was the astronomer who, if I remember correctly, discovered Uranus. And New York fell for it, hook, line and sinker. Apparently, even Edgar Allan Poe fell for it and was most peeved when he eventually twigged that it was all a big hoax and got very annoyed because he'd actually perpetrated almost exactly the same hoax in another newspaper about 6 months previously, and nobody had paid the slightest bit of attention. So yeah, that's not exactly a squirrel. I mean, that's kind of a squirrel, but that's more a man bat than a Batman. But yeah, bats, lots of bats on the moon or otherwise, and that is one of the piano book samples that was released this month. And again, they're all free to download if you go to the piano book website. And let's go back to it, because I think this one will also let you download it. Oh, right. So this one it just needs the full version of Contact, which a lot of them sadly do. So, yeah, there are so many instruments around at the moment. Get yourself a copy of Ploeg Sforzando, get yourself a copy of Decent Sampler. Just go out there and have a look for SFZ files on the internet. There are bonkers numbers of those available to play with. I played a few examples of full orchestral Sforzando libraries on, I think it was the Is It Form Yet show number 12 or number 13, but the links are all there on the playlists in YouTube. And that brings me, to wind things up, to the housekeeping for the evening. So if you are following me on Twitch, Thank you very much for doing so. Thank you very much to Goosebones Stanley, who followed me a scant 38 minutes ago. That gets me to within 9 followers of making affiliate. And that is something that I would really like to do this year. So if you're watching me on Twitch and you're not already following me, please consider following me. I'd really appreciate it. And if you're watching the edited highlights of this show on YouTube, then please follow me or subscribe on YouTube. I've now got 50 followers on YouTube. Hurrah! Isn't that wonderful? Please click the like button if you found this remotely useful, entertaining, or just plain silly. And if you click on the little bell icon, it'll notify you when I post new content to YouTube, which at the moment I'm chucking out an hour or 3 every week, usually on Fridays, which is when I finish editing this show, and on Mondays when I finish editing the Is It Form Yet show, which will be taking place this Sunday at 2100 GMT, 2200 Central European Time. Other time zones are available. Riako Music says, oh hey, did your car battery fully recharge? I checked just before I came online, and it is at phase 5 of a 7-phase battery reconditioning cycle. So I've just left it going. I'll give it a check before I turn in for tonight. But if you're recharging or resurrecting a car battery that's died on you, then you're normally looking at between 12 to 24 hours for it to get back to its normal state. So that's kind of going to be tomorrow lunchtime-ish, which kind of works for me. So I'll get up tomorrow, check the car, and then go and do me grocery shopping that I thought I was going to do on Tuesday when I discovered that the car was completely flat and it's an automatic. It was stuck in park, which meant I couldn't even roll it out of the garage to give it a bump start, and it's a hybrid, so bump starts kind of are a weird thing for hybrids anyway. So yeah, I just plugged it into the mains and we'll see what happens. But that's kind of me done for today. What time is it? It's 21:06. I've been going over an hour and a half. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you'll go out and try, get yourself a copy of Contact Player, which is the free version. You can avail yourself of Complete Start, which is kind of the starter pack for Native Instruments complete set, and that comes as free. You get a whole bunch of really interesting instruments just in Complete Start. If I go back to my screen share and we get rid of the pandemic pad, there is one called Analog Dreams. Where are you? There you are. So you get this, which is rather nice. So it's it screams Giorgio Moroder and Chris Oakey, doesn't it? Maybe we can dispense with the reverb on some of these patches. So let's give you a quick browse through a few. Alert riser. Barbie Lauper, that one's called. Let's try that then. There are some really nice ones in there. So, but yeah, grab yourself a copy of Complete Player. You can download it from Native Instruments, fill in or download Native Access and avail yourself of their free instruments. There are a whole bunch of free instruments. In fact, while we're here, let's go over to Native Instruments and find out exactly what there is on offer. So, screen share, right, products, free. So we've covered the Yangtze Chinese zither, which is gorgeous. Complete start. There you go. So you get a free production suite, 2,000 plus sounds. Supercharger's a really, really, really nice compressor plugin. Complete start. So if we go to that, I think we'll find, there you go, Analog Dreams, Hybrid Keys, Ethereal Earth. So, you know, the two instruments that I was using in last month's albums. Decembering was using Ethereal Earth and Hybrid Keys. So you can get them for nothing, which is pretty darn amazing, if you ask me. So go out, get yourself a whole bunch of new instruments, if they are new to you, and get using them this week, next week, the week after, because you've got 25 days to get your head round using them, and then you can go nuts with them and start making songs and uploading them to the February Album Writing Month site, because February starts in 25 days and it's going to be brill. And I hope you are all going to be brill, more brill than some of you are feeling at the moment, Belinda. Please take care. Please look after yourself. Eat loads of ice cream. That sounds like a really, really good coping strategy. That's my kind of coping strategy. Ryako says, "Oh, chocolate pots." Yeah, that's apart from the fact I'm not allowed chocolate because it contains oxalates, and oxalates are one of the principal components in kidney stones. And I have more than enough oxalates in my kidneys at the moment to see me through to the rest of this century. Thank you very much. Which sucks because I like chocolate, but such is life. It is what it is. I hope that you have a good rest of the week. We're nearly at the weekend. Let's just call it a night. I'll wish you all the best for the weekend. Wills Robin says, test. Yeah, testing. Twitch is back. Indeed. So, wherever you are, stay well, stay safe, stay sane. To combine all three together, stay Wayne. And wear a damn mask if you're going out. If you're socialising with people, wear a damn mask. If you're in lockdown with other people, wear a damn mask. It's what changes. And yes, Noaja says, thank you all, will eat all, yum yum. Good to hear it. So yeah, wherever you are, have a good one. I will see you. I'll be back here on Sunday, and until then, take care of yourselves and look after each other and hope for a better future. Really? Cheers.